Okay, we're doing Shavuos because next week I won't be here, and the week after that is Shavuos. So just to give everyone the heads up, I left the Puzma. I have some invitations to my son's wedding, so just to give everyone the heads up. So the Sunday following Shavuos we will learn, but not the Sunday after, because I'm going to be going out for my son's chasana. Shah Tov Mutzlachas. Okay, and I think it'll be I'll be there for 2 Sundays. Okay. Fine. Shavuos. So the main question I want to deal with today is we know that the Chagim, they open up portals in time to draw strength from the original experience that we don't have in this day and age. Like Pesach, right? So the power of Cherus opens up, which aside from the fact that we're in Golus, but we're enslaved to the Yetzer Hara. So during Pesach we have our Cherus from the Yetzer Hara. We detox, as we learned in the Derech Hashem, that the Chametz represents the Yetzer Hara, and for 7 days a year we are in a detox from the Yetzer Hara. And so we understand what Pesach gives us that we don't have year round. Sukkos, right? The Tzila de Memenusa being under like the hashpa of the Anonei HaKavod that surrounded us in the Midbar. So we don't have that year round, and we get it again on Sukkot. Right? Rosh Hashanah, obvious. What's special is the Day of Judgment that we don't have year round, and then there's the shofar, the opportunity to do tshuva and to refashion the upcoming year. Yom Kippur, something we don't have year round. The special opportunity to do tshuva and have all our verse washed away. Right? Chanukah and Purim, the koach of nitzachon, victory over our enemies, comes back. So what do we have on Shavuos that we don't have year-round? We have Torah. Right? It's, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the Torah already. He gave the Torah already. So what do we have on Shavuos that we don't have year-round? Now we understand what the other Chagim give us that we don't have year-round. Right? At Shavuos, it's all the same Torah. Right? So we have to define what does Shavuos give us that we don't have year-round. So there's some classical questions like why it's called Chag Matan Torasenu, why is it not called Chag Kabbalah Satar? Why is the emphasis on the giving, not on the receiving? That's So now there's another theme in Shavuos that doesn't get much attention, even though it's there all the time. Whenever the Torah talks about it, it doesn't get much attention because Bavnoseinu Rabim, the Zman of the Churban, we don't have these things anymore. Right? We don't have the Shtei Halechem. It was brought specially, and it had a very interesting halacha that we were not allowed to use any new grain for any korbanos until after the Shtei Halechem. So it's just like there was an Isser Chadash that for civilians, so that the Omer was matir. There's no problem of Chadash right now for the next 6 months. Roughly, everything's Yoshan. Everything is whatever's going out into the market is wheat that was cut before the Omer. That's now the problem of where you have to check and there's a hechsher or make sure it's Yoshan. That's during the winter months when the summer wheat is hitting the market. Summer wheat's a problem Chodesh until the next Omer. All right, so there's the Omer's matir Chodesh in Gvulim, for civilian purposes. Right, civilian use, but in the Beis HaMikdash, it was also to use any new grain for any of the menachos until the Shtei Halechem. Right? It's matir chodesh in the Mikdash. Right? So, aside from the fact that they're very unique and that they were chametz also, right? And maybe if we have time, maybe we'll address that. But the main thing is that's called the Mincha Chadosh El Hashem. Right, and another thing that that there is that from Shavuos onwards, right, begins the chiyuv to bring the bikurim. Now it doesn't have to be brought on Shavuos, but you could. But it goes from Shavuos and onwards. Right, the first of the Shevas Haminim, any one of the first of the seven have to, the very first one. When you see it bloom, you're supposed to tie a red string around it, tie a sign around it, and then you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. That's Bikurim. And all of these things are all called Bikurim. The Bikurim per se, where, it doesn't have to be on Shavuos, but it starts then. And then there's the Shtei Alechem is also called Bikurei Ktsir Chitim. Like the first of the cut of the wheat. And that sets the tone from that point onwards. The new grain is mutter for use in the Beis HaMikdash. It starts from the Shtei Alechem, and they're both called Bikurim. That's no Shtei Alechem is a special bread brought, in addition to the Lechem Aponim that was, from the regular Seder Avoda, that week in, week out. The Shtei, so Lechem Aponim, as an example, had to be brought from old grain until the Shtei Alechem is brought. Then it's mutter to use the stuff that grew, this winter. And then, it's a Chodesh is still Osir in the Mikdash until the Shtei Alechem is brought. And that's called the Mincha Chadasha LaHashem. We just read in this week's parasha, V'grafta Mincha Chadasha LaHashem. That's the Shtei Alechem. It's new because it's from the new grain that grew this year. And it's also called Bikurei Ktsir Chitim in Parshas Kisisa, or Bikurei Ma'asecha in Parshas, Bikurim, that, it goes, the first of the new wheat is also called Bikurim. Aside from the din of Bikurim in our civilian affairs, that also we have to bring Bikurim. That also starts on Shavuos.
So who brought this Shtei Alechem?
That's communal. It's like a carbon tzibur.
So it came out of the communal funds, but who actually...
No, the Kohanim, it's avodah in the Mikdash, the Kohanim took care of it, like they take care of all the menachos, all the, offerings that come from grain. Right, so I want to analyze that theme, because it's no small thing. It is recurrent. The Torah always speaks about this. Right, so there's a regarding the Bikurim.
I'm listening to you. He's not here.
Okay, no problem. Right, regarding the Bikurim, it's a Medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Kisavo that says that Tzipa Moshe Baruch HaKrosh Shasi Beis Hamikdash Lichorev Bikurim Libatel. Moshe Rabbeinu saw Baruch HaKodesh, even back in his day, that the Beis Hamikdash would be destroyed and the Bikurim would not be brought. Right? Amad V'tiklam Yisol Shu Mispalim Gimel Pamim B'yom, and he instituted we have to daven 3 times a day. It's a Tanchuma. Amazing thing, right? Because you don't have Bikurim once a year, that's why, we have to daven 3 times a day, every day. It's amazing. Right? So, what's the pshat of that? We have to daven 3 times a day, every day, because we don't bring Bikurim anymore.
I wish that was the answer. Can I say the devil? Why did
No, this is Tanchuma. There's not, there's different shitas. There's a Tanchuma. Right? Now, even according to this Tanchum, doesn't mean he's told you what time, times is Mani Atfila, the Nusach Atfila. And that's what it says. Right? This day is called, Parshas Ubiyoma Bikurim Bach, Krivchem Mincha Chadosh al Hashem, Shavuos Seichem, the Yom of Bikurim. When we bring the Mincha Chadosh, there's the idea of Chodesh, it's the idea of Bikurim, be it on the grain, be it, the chiyuv that people have on their Shivas Aminim. So, to look into this a little bit, and then we'll understand of yes, the so we know. We'll open up first with another question. The word bikurim and bechor is the same word. Yeah, it's a firstborn, first fruit. It's first fruit, first grain. Yeah. So the Gemara says in Shabbos and Daf Peites that in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to go to the office and he's going to complain about the behavior of their children, Am Yisrael. He's going to go to Avram Avinu and say, Banecha Chatuli, and Avram Avinu is not going to have an answer, say, Yimachal Kiddush Shmecha, that you have to wipe them out, Kiddush Hashem, to show that crime doesn't pay, and do it. And he's going to go to Yaakov Avinu and say, Banecha Chatuli, Yaakov is going to say same thing. All right, if he's not going to have an answer and say, okay, Yimachal Kiddush Shmecha, if you have to kill them to be Mekadosh Shechan to show that crime doesn't pay, then do it. Right? Then he's going to go to Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu is going to be the one that defends us. And Yitzchak Avinu is the one who says, he retorts, Ribar Shalom, Banai v'lo banecha, and my children, not yours, b'shah shigdimu. Nasa nishma, krasa b'ni b'chor Yisrael. At the time that they said Nasa before Nishma, you call them b'ni b'chori Yisrael. My firstborn Klal Yisrael. Right? It was by Matan Torah, or the day before, as we made ourselves ready, call them B'ni B'chor Yisrael. Right? The problem is like this, that's not where the Pasuk B'ni B'chor Yisrael is written. It's Parsha Shmos. Moshe Rabbeinu is sent by Hashem to tell Paro to let the people go. Tell Paro B'ni B'chor Yisrael. And if you're not going to send out Am Yisrael, Hini Honda Des Bincha B'chorecha. Not letting my firstborn go, I'm going to kill your firstborn. It's in Parsha Shmos. Yeah. Before the Yesser Makkos. So, what are you talking about when they said Nasa for Nishma, now, B'ni B'chor Yisrael. Right? Well, it's interesting that, we could see a connection that by Matan Torah, in our merit of Nasa Nishma, we said the day, because that we got the Torah the very next day. Right? It's called B'ni B'chor Yisrael, fitting this theme of, Bechor, Bikurim, Bikurei Maasecha. Right. So, take a look. Take a look at the word Bechor. The root of the word is Beis Chaf Reish. Right, the Vav, you don't need the Vav. So, the letter Beis is the second letter of the Aleph Beis, in the when the gematrias are still in the single digits. Aleph Beis Gimel, 1, 2, 3, right? Chaf is the second letter when the oisius go into double digits, right? Yud, is 10. Chaf, 20. Reish is the second letter when we go into triple digits. Kuf, is 100. Reish, 200. So it's 2, 20, and 200. Right? Something here? Hello, Doverhu. Even though we're talking about the first. Right? But all these Oisius are the second Oisius. Right? You would have thought that the Bor should be something with an Aleph and a Yud and and a Kuf. Right? So what's the message? So Dafka, the second Oisius.
Takes two. Get one man alone.
Because the first, but he's really the second because he's not the source.
Right.
The first is the source, the parent. The parents, the parents' generation, they're the first. He's the first of the kids. Right. He's the first of the second generation. Right? Mm-hmm. Right. And that's something I was going to talk about something very important to realize. Right? He's not really the first. He's the first of the next set, but he's not the absolute first because there's the parents. He's the first of the second generation. Right? So now, there's you could invert the letters, and just Beis, Reish, Chaf, same as just move them around, switch the second and third letter, and it's Borech, right? Bracha. Right? The root of the word bracha. So now that already Chazal address and say, bracha is to have a lot. Bracha starts from two. No, one is that's no bracha. That's not a lot. A lot starts from having more. Starts from the second. More means and more. The thing, and then there's more. More doesn't start until you reach number two. Bracha. Right? To have more. So that's more understood. So that's what Chazal say. It's a medrash right there in the beginning of the Torah. Right, on the word Bereshis. Why did the Torah start with the letter Beis? Start the Torah with Aleph. Right? It's the beginning, right? So in Torah, especially Torah's Emes starts with an Aleph. Why did Torah start with Beis? It's a medrash. The medrash asked this question. And the medrash says an interesting thing, right? Because there's no bracha in Aleph. It's just one. We want a lot. Aleph is miloshin arira, orur. Orur starts with an Aleph. And that's the opposite of Baruch. I want bracha. Right? So I can't start the word with Aleph because the word it's orur. And so that's also what the gematria of Aleph is one. There's no ribui. And it's lashon arira, it's orur, and I want baruch, and that's why the world started with Beis. So the Medrash goes on and says, so the Aleph had tainus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he should come first, because he's first of the Oisius. Baruch says, I'm going to pay you back by Matan Torah. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It's a Medrash. It's a Medrash Rabbah. Anochi. Aleph of Anochi. I'm going to start, the formal Torah, because, after we understand chronologically speaking, when we got Parshas Bereshis after we heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, then Moshe Rabbeinu wrote down, or at the same time, because we were getting the Torah, we also got, Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed to write Sefer Bereshis. So for us, it's as if it started from Anochi. Right? And that's when we're licensed, Moshe Rabbeinu gets licensed to give us the Torah and give us, Sefer Bereshis also. That's why it's called as the Torah starts, with Anochi. For us, it started, historically, with Anochi. That was Matan Torah, and then we're going to get Sefer Bereshis also, as one of the books of the Torah. Right. So it's an amazing thing that Medrash is saying that that by Matan Torah we went from Beis back to Aleph. The world was created with a Beis, and we lashon bracha, right? And it's to and we have, and by Matan Torah we get back to Aleph. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Why should you want to get back to Aleph? The Medrash said in the first part, I can't create the world with an Aleph because there's no bracha in that. So why do you have to get back to Aleph? Aleph feels bad. What can you do?
We're all trying to get back to Kadosh Baruch Hu, to life before.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the interesting paradox that there is in bracha. So on the one hand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to, for lack of a better word, make room for others, right? So he hides himself and allows us, to have the perception that we have a world and that we're doing and that we're producing and we're, Yigia kapecha ki seichel. right? As if we're making our own living and doing our own thing, and and he wants there to be the, as it were, the illusion that not to be taken literally. I mean, that's the challenge, that there ki'ilu is oid milvado. There's something outside of him, where we could feel that we exist and we're doing and we're accomplishing. Yeah. So what happens when you take that literally, right? I mean, in your own perception, that's how you relate to it. It's me, it's mine, right? Right. So that's when bracha, as it were, self-destructs. All right? Because what's really sad about life is, aside from the fact that nothing lasts forever, you're proud of yourself. You made this. That money will get spent. That money could easily go. Right? Nothing you made will last forever. Nothing that you made is safe from being taken away from you. But here's the worst part of it. Even if it doesn't get taken away from you, you don't enjoy it anymore after the first moment. Right? That's right. Even if it doesn't get taken away from you, right? So, lo mi baya, that, give it, a long time, it'll rot. The fruits, the grain, But even if it doesn't, even before that, it doesn't give you simcha anymore. That's right. You only make shechianu when something's new, right? If you miss the first day, as long as you're still, be spileless from it, you could still. But after that, you can't make sure it doesn't give you the simcha anymore. Like you yourself don't want it anymore. You yourself don't like it anymore. That's really what's driving the insane amount of consumerism. It's insane, right? It's because you get no simcha from the car that you have. You get no simcha from the clothes you have. You have to have something new all the time. That's all the time, right? That's why it's already been said decades ago that they don't bother making quality clothing anymore. Who passes on clothing? You would want to buy something new even before it wears out, so they don't have to make it. They don't have to bother. They don't have to bother. No, it's true. It's a waste. No, I'm saying this was already said in studies decades ago, because there's no point. There's no point in making something built to last, because the person himself is going to want to trade it in, upgrade, even before it wears out. And that's what's driving the insane amount of, production. Stuff that you don't need. Fall collection, winter collection, spring collection, summer collection. It's crazy. No, it's true. It's once it comes into your grasp, it starts losing its freshness. And that's and that's even before it gets taken away from you, even before it rots. That's it, right? So, and that happens because things are disconnected from the source, right? Right. So there's at the moment that it's new, so you have you feel the big shift, the big change. Right, but then after that, it's the excitement wears off. Right? How do you keep things, fresh? So the Chazal say, someone here mentioned the lechem aponim. Lechem aponim, because lechem aponim lefonai tamid. So it's called lechem aponim. It was called lechem aponim for a few reasons. It was lefonai tamid. So Chazal tell us, even though it was there a whole week, right? It tasted as fresh as if it was just baked, when the Kohanim eat it at the end of the week. Right? It's amazing. Why? Because it's lefonai tamid, because it never gets disconnected from the source. So it's by HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Curious. Just, I don't know if this is a thought or not. Just bring me back to the materialistic things. What was the source? The source was the desire, like once we get it, it's separated from the source. What's the source that?
Well, the real
It's the Yetzer Hara that wanted it. No. It's mankind always trying to strive to get more and more.
right. That's
So
correct. No,
That's
it may, yes, a lot of these things were already disconnected from the source before you even
Right.
got them,
Right.
but it was just for the first instant in the contrast because of not having it to having it. And in that moment, you have the simcha from it, and that's why
right. And that's
it quickly
that
wanes.
pinpoint. That pinpoint, right.
Right. But if you could connect it to the infinite source, it'll be forever fresh.
And that's why we try to get back to Aleph.
Yes. Yeah, but of course, it's. But it's so. And that's why. So and that's the bracha bechor duality. It's two because it's more. Now we have more. Which more starts from two and onwards. One is just the thing itself. More starts from two. Right? But you also have to realize, right, that it's the second, right? The Bechor, right, is the second. There's a source. That's the real first. Right? You always have to not lose sight that the first is the source. Right? That's the Bechor is actually supposed to be more aware than any of the other kids about how he came from his parents, and find Lashonos in the Sforim, that the Ben Bechor is closest to his parents, and that's why it's interesting. It's a very long sugya, in halacha and in philosophically that we don't have time to discuss. Right? There's Bechor mitzada aim and Bechor mitzada av. Bechor mitzada aim is chayiv and pidyon haben. It all goes by the mother. If it's her first child, the father's one is chayiv, but it all goes by her, whether it's her, her first, and then there's his first child from wherever, and he's the one who gets pi shnayim in nachala. It's interesting. But there's two different types of bechor. The one that's chayiv and pinyan ben, and the one that gets pi shnayim, and one is totally in the father, one is totally in the mother. Even though the one is totally in the mother, Peter Rechem is still the chiyuv is on the father to count the 5 slime to give to the kohen, but still, it's very interesting. The different bechinas of bechor, but either way, there's greater connection, greater obligations on the parent. Right. The Bechor is supposed to be carry, right, this cognizance that he came from parents. He didn't make himself. So now the truth is like this. All right, but no, before we get back to Am Yisrael and the Torah, so let's just discuss Bikurim and why we have to daven 3 times a day. Understand this. Right, so the act of Bikurim, right, in general, that all Klal Yisrael has to do. If they had a field and the first of the Shivas Haminim have to be brought to the Beis HaMikdash, right, so the idea, behind that is that you want to bring it back to the source. This is my first fruit. It's not the first. It's really the second. The source is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you reconnect it to the source. And by reconnecting it to the source, right, that's what keeps it perpetually fresh. And the amazing koach that the Bikurim had, that the Bikurim come from the Shivas Haminim, which are connected to 7 midas that we call Teva, the 7 weeks of the Omer. It created a sense of freshness for year round, even though it was a once a year event. You brought it any time from Shavuos until however long you're allowed to bring it. Right? But it created a sense of freshness, right? because when you're eating out of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand, right? Here's the first fruit. It's the Bechor, but give it back to the Aleph, give it back to the source, and that way that creates and that sets the tone for all the rest of what you're going to eat. For the rest of the year, the second, the third, and the fourth. They all come in a challah, down this same series of these first that you brought. It sets the tone for the rest of the series. You realize it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? And then you're not going to forget about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're not going to say Kochim Votzim Yodi. Right? And there also will be real bracha in it. Right? Because, it's this plentifulness is going to be connected to the source. So the source has to make room for the more, but you don't want the more to be disconnected from the source. So there won't be any bracha in it either. So bracha involves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, making room for others, but it won't be real bracha if those others won't still be connected to the source. And what the Bikurim managed to do once a year can only be missing that. The only thing it could supplement for it is davening every day, 3 times a day. Maush Keneged, like the Kuzri says, we spoke about this. We also had in Nefesh Chaim, he brought it from the Zohar. Keneged mealtime. You eat 3 times a day. Erev Avokav V'Tzorayim. Right? Always remember, right? There are these 3 times a day, These are 3 periods a day. It all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if he doesn't give, you don't got nothing. And so at the Bikurim, the Hakara and the Hashpa, the cognizance that it instilled in our heads and in our hearts, and the feeling that, and the bracha that it brought, could only be supplemented in the lack of Bikurim davening every single day, 3 times a day, to keep a perpetual feeling you're eating out of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand. So you have to ask for it and ask for it and ask for it every single day, 3 times per day. Thank him 3 times a day. Ask 3 times a day and thank 3 times a day to never forget you're eating out of his hand. And that's where all the bracha comes from, And the bracha is dual, right? That there's first of all bracha in the sense that, like we're saying, if you acknowledge you're eating out of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand, you don't take it in, so that those resources are more protected because you didn't separate them from him. They're more protected. There'll be more bracha in the sense it'll last longer. You'll be more matzliach with it. Right? Enjoy it more. Right? But there's also, it'll have spiritual power to it. How can you have the motza pi Hashem, like the divine words that are behind that? How are you going to have access to any of that if you're not acknowledging that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, asking him for it and thanking him for it? Right? That there's also there's a spiritual dimension to everything. There's spiritual power. Right? And acknowledging that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the right to access those aspects of it. And in the depth of it, these 2 aspects that I mentioned, having more simcha and hatzlacha from it, and also that it has, spiritual power to it. Everything has spiritual power to it, but you're not going to unlock the spiritual power. And how everything that all the parnasa HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you is an act of connection between you and him, right? And you're not going to get that without davening for it 3 times a day. The truth is that these 2 aspects are really one, because really, the aspect of the resources that will give them kiyum and give them bracha, give them hatzlacha, and give you real tanug from it, not just for the first split second. That's its ruchni side. That's ruchni side. It gets unlocked with the cognizance that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is expressed through tefillah, asking him for it and thanking him for it. And that's what we got from Bikurim once a year, just once a year. And the only supplement for that is to now, daven. 3 times a day, every single day. Amazing. So you see, imagine what the power of Bikurim was. But here's something, cranking it up a level. Legabe the Torah and Legabe Am Yisrael's position as HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children. We asked, Hara Yitzchak Avinu says, at the time that they said Na'aseh v'Nishma, we called them B'ni B'chorei Yisrael. Now where the Rebbe Shalom's B'chor, because going back to the very first word in the Torah, Bereshis, Beis, Lashon Bracha, so what does Rashi say? Bereshis B'shvil Yisrael Shnikru Reishis. U'B'shvil HaTorah Shnikru Reishis. We're both called the first, but the first of the second generation. Right? All right, so the Rebbe Shalom conceived of Am Yisrael at the time of creation of the world. He thought of us, and he thought of the Torah, and of course the two belong together, like a glove on a hand. The Reishis on the Reishis. And of course it's the Reishis of, it's Reishis. It's like Chor, right? It's the first of the second generation. Yeah, the Rebbe Shalom was the real first, right? Now, this is all true, right? The Rebbe Shalom set up the world this way, right? And whether we acknowledge it or not, everything that happens throughout the world, is all for the Torah and it's all for Klal Yisrael. Everything is centering around us. It's all for us, right? It's just the way the world was rigged, right? The way the world was set up, that everything, you want to see a sign of it, speaking of Bikurim, it's the Bikurim is only in Eretz Yisrael. Because only in Eretz Yisrael you can really be zocheh to feel this perpetual newness that comes from accessing the spiritual side of things, which comes from, and it's only in Eretz Yisrael where it's Eretz Asher Yinei Hashem Lokecha Ba, right? So, the whole world, is just busy with one thing, right? Eretz Yisrael. The whole world, there are millions of people being killed there, millions of people being killed there, millions of people starving there, and the whole world is just obsessed with the Jews and Eretz Yisrael. So it's true. Everything, we're the central cog of reality. We are the central cog of reality. The Rebbe Shalom made it that way. It just is. It just is. Right? And the truth is that, whether we acknowledge it or not, we will always be the central cog of reality. Right? Just when we acknowledge it, right? When we acknowledge it, the Rebbe Shalom gives us bracha and hatzlacha, and the whole world has to see it and swallow it, right? And then that's how it's demonstrated, right? When we don't acknowledge it, then we're the ball that the Rebbe Shalom uses to kick around, when he plays off against the Umas Ha'olam, right? We're the ball that gets used in the game. But it's not very pleasant when it goes that way. We're the ball that's used in the game, that he's playing off with them and beats them every time. But that's because that's our position in reality. We are the central cog of how everything works. But the question is whether we acknowledge it or not, or whether we in our personal reality are connected to it or not. Just like our parnasa. Like we said a second ago, it all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The question is, are we connected to that reality that it all comes from? Or we're not connected. But it's still true either way. Just if you don't acknowledge it, so there won't be you won't have any bracha from the parnasa the Rebbe Shalom gives you. Right? But the Rebbe Shalom's agenda in giving you that parnasa, for whatever reason, for whatever part, whatever role it plays, constantly is fulfilled. Just the same. He gets what he wants. We just don't benefit as much as we could because we're not acknowledging. Not being makir tov. Right? So just like it's that way as far as the paras, it's that way as far as our role as being the Jewish people. Right? So when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Paro and says, B'ni B'chorei Yisrael, in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So it's a statement of fact. Right? It makes, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying to Paro like this, it makes no difference that the Jews are acting the same like the Egyptians. It's a mitzvah. I made my world, right? And I set up, Bereshis, B'shvil Yisrael. It's a reality. The way the world's wired up, it goes through these people. Everything is for them, right? Whether you could see how Am Yisrael is different or not, it's a fact, right? It's a fact, right? It's just a reality, right? Right. what Yitzchak Avinu is saying, that Bizman Shigdimu Nasa Nishma Karasla and B'nai B'chor Yisrael, that's when we earned it. That's when we earned the title B'nai B'chor Yisrael. Earned it from our side. From our side. It was always a reality. Right? But by our submission to the Ribbon Shalom's Ratzon, right? Right? The acknowledgement of him as our king and as the creator, right? That's what caused us that at that time we earned the title B'nai B'chor Yisrael. It always was true, because that's the way reality is set up. But then there's earning it, owning the title justly. Right? The difference is like this. I think we already articulated the difference, but we'll just put it again in a father-son type relationship. Right, the son that acknowledges the father and is grateful to the father, right? He stares. He and the son look at each other face to face, and they have a relationship. Then there's the son that doesn't acknowledge the father, and the father also doesn't acknowledge him, right? But what can you do? A father's a father. He can't cut off a son. Can't cut off. So how's it go? The son looks that way, the father looks that way, but the father throws parnasa over his shoulder. It's a zayr. Basar katfay, throws it over his shoulder. Just throws it, so it's still a reality. The father takes care of the son because it can't be otherwise. Can't be otherwise, right? But there's no relationship. So there's a flow of energy, but but the flow of it's like without the intimacy and without the closeness and without the simcha, right? So about a B'nai B'chor Yisrael, right? It was always that way. It was always that way since creation itself, right? But at what point do we, mitzidenu, do we earn that title? And that way we can look the Shekhinah in the face, right? It won't be Nahamad Kisufa, right? And that was by Matan Torah. Right? That Am Yisrael said, Nas v'Nishra, now they face HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They face HaKadosh Baruch Hu face to face. B'nai B'chor Yisrael, the B'chor acknowledges, the B'chor were the second, he's the first. And
Can you just repeat, what did Yitzchak say again, way back in the beginning? Just say that
when the Ribbon Shalom went to him and said, Banecha chatuli, so he immediately retorted, Banai v'lo bara, what, as if they're my kids and not your kids?
Right.
B'zman shigdimu nasa nishma krasam B'nai B'chor Yisrael.
Okay.
So now this is especially important, our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And not just our relationship, but for the whole mitzias of Torah. The whole mitzias of Torah, right? There's an amazing thing about Torah. It never gets old. Right? Now, if we received Torah 3,000 years ago, roughly, should have been very old and very fractured, should have, passing through so many hands, right? You would have thought that, we've been reduced to, but it's not that way. We have the Torah. We have the Torah, and Torah keeps on expanding. There's always chidushay Torah. Right? Where does that vitality come from? Right? And it's despite all the setbacks, Chorban Abayis and Yerida Saduris, and the Torah is alive. It's alive. So it's a very interesting lashon in Chazal, throughout Chazal, that when Divrei Torah Gishma, Smechim Kenesinosam, it's as joyous as if we just got it, or Arevim Kenesinosam Misinai. It's an ongoing, it's an expression in Chazal. That when someone says Gishmak, it was Smechim Kenesinosam, like when it was given. And that's where, and Sinai is often mentioned over there, even though, it's, Ma'amar says, Smechem Kinson, when it's Gishmak, when it's Arev. Because, the biggest challenge that there is in Matan Torah or I should say in Kabbalah's Torah, I should say, that is an amazing thing that the Rebbe Shalom really gave it. He really gave it to the point that there's a halacha of lo bashamayim he, right? That as it were, we find, you could argue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you could argue with him, on how to touch up Torah, famous, everyone knows the famous story of Rabbi Elazar ben Horkonos got into a machlokas with all the chachamim about a certain halacha, Tanur Shachnai, and he said, Basko came out, Malachem Etzel Elazar b'ni halacha k'masu b'chol makom. Rabbi Yeshua got up and said, Lo b'shamayim bi. He paskin against him. Basko came out. No one doubted that it was a real Basko. There was a real prophetic experience. No one cared, right? It's amazing. So Lo b'shamayim bi. What HaKadosh will do at that time? So he laughed. Nitzchuni banai, nitzchuni banai. My kids beat me. He laughed. He thought it was funny. He thought it was, he got hanoah from it. Amazing thing.
But it was for, like Karakanas said, or not?
No, we don't Pascal like him.
No?
They don't care. It was Basco. Torah was given already. Lo b'shamayim bi. It's an amazing thing. That's...
Are you chilly? Is it cold?
I'm fine. All right. That's an amazing thing, right? All right. So Rebbe Shalom gave us the Torah, right? So he has to give us the Torah that it's by us, but in no way are we going to take the Torah and run away with it, reform it, or what's equally as bad is that the Torah should lose its vitality, like anything that we just take for ourselves, lose its vitality and lose how it connects to us, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an amazing duality when you think about it. Matan Torah, he gave us the Torah, really, but the trick is, right, to always keep it connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is no, there's no easy feat. If you are meant to, understand Torah your way, and that's the right thing to do, and come up with your chidushim, right, and still not take it away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? The Torah should always fulfill its function of keeping us connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you have to have it without the detriment of what taking for yourself does, like we explained, that it takes away all the vitality. Torah is supposed to be always fresh, always new. Torah is supposed to be alive. Torah's chaim, divrei Elokim chaim. We say udvorav chaim v'kayamim nechmadim. So we're supposed to have it. All right, and still it shouldn't lose that vitality of being divrei Elokim chaim. Right? Because once you disassociate the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it then just becomes wisdom. It just becomes philosophy. And it would have been trashed years ago. And it survived, millennia. Amazing. Because it still, as we're going to learn Nefesh Chaim, it still remains his dibur. Even though it's by us. It never stopped coming, as it were, out of his mouth, as it were. Just, of course, we are focused on having the Torah year-round. And that's Kabbalah's the Torah. And the Kabbalah doesn't renew itself. Right? Our having it. There's no newness in having. We have it already. Right? The newness is in going back to the source of where it came from, the Matan Torah. That's why it's Chag Matan Torah Seinu, to put all the emphasis on the giving, to reassociate. No, it's the anniversary that Shavuos is to reconnect, even though it's always connected, but in our consciousness, to renew in our consciousness that the Torah comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is Nosei Torah. And it's true year round. Hooray, we make a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Nosei Torah. So the Maharal points out, it's Lashon Hove, present tense, not Nosan. Right? Nosei Torah, present tense. He's still giving it. Just, we're not aware that he's perpetually giving the Torah. But on Shavuos is the time to become aware again. Just like we're always his Ben Bechor, right? But on Shavuos is a time to now, from our side of things, that we get swept up in things to re-acknowledge our role as being his Ben Bechor, even though it's always true. And it's also always 2 days, the Nosei Torah, but that's what's Nischadesh, right? And that's what keeps our religion alive. Our religion is alive, right? If Chas v'Shalom, Judaism would have just been given in an instant, and then, the Prophet said, here's some tools, work with it, have a nice day. Right? Would have lost its vitality a long time ago. What keeps Yadus, it makes a Torah Chaim, is that it never stopped being from him. It's always connected to him. And that's what it means. It's a special lesson. Right, that the Shavuos was you brought the Shtelachem. That's Matir Chodosh b'Mikdash Chodosh. Right, this is the big day. This is the Yom HaBikurim. This is the day that we reconnect everything back to the source. Right, reconnect everything back to the source, and the whole religion gets reconnected to the source. That's what it means. That it's Matir Chodosh b'Mikdash. That from this point onwards you're allowed to use newness. I mean, this ushers in newness. What keeps vitality in Judaism? The fact that you acknowledge that it's from the Ribbono Shel Olam, not Amol from the Ribbono Shel Olam. Now it's from the Ribbono Shel Olam. It's perpetually from the Ribbono Shel Olam. Divrei Torah never stopped coming Kivyachol out of his mouth. It never stopped. All right? So, and this is what happens. This is what we get. Chag Matan Torah is the focus. Not the focus that the Torah is given from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Given, focus on the giver, where it comes from. Focus on the source, and that's what recharges and adds vitality to the Torah of all year long. It's Yom HaBikurim. Attaching back to the source. The second goes back to the first. The Beis of Bereshis goes back to the Aleph of Anochi and gets recharged. And that's it. Everything gets recharged on Shavuos. Even the Yetzer Hara. Even the Yetzer Hara gets recharged on Shavuos. Right? Everything gets renewed. Everything gets renewed. Because everything goes back to the source. But here's the chap, right? The Yetzer Hara gets renewed because he goes back to the source. When he goes back to the source, he's not so bad. What's wrong with him is that he denies the source. Right?
What's that it?
Right? Right? So and that happens on Shavuos.
Okay.
Right? But he goes back to the source. So that's the secret, the Shtei Alechem or Chametz. Chametz represents the Yetzer Hara. Even on this day, even the Yetzer Hara finds his place. Everything goes back to the source. And that's what it says. Chazal tell us, Gemara and Shabbos, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the Shemaim, he had to debate the Malachim because they wanted to bar the giving of the Torah. Not when how did he win the argument? What was it? What was the argument? Right? Well, listen, you guys don't have a Yetzer Hara, and you don't have an Av Ve'em, you don't have all the problems we have. So what do you need a Torah for? Right? Because all of Torah is coming to address, correcting, the ills of the world. You guys don't have any ills. So you have to realize that, the Yetzer Hara is the whole reason why we got the Torah. Yeah. Kum kina yesh b'chem, kum sina yesh b'nechem. You guys don't have all the bad midas we have. Right? Because really the Torah is there to bring everything back to the Ribbono Shel Olam, including the Yetzer Hara. No small thing. And then what happened? So the Gemara goes on and says, after that the Malachim were bested in the argument, so Masalo Davar, everyone gave him a gift. Everyone gave Moshe Rabbeinu a gift. As Paul says, "Lakachas matanos ba'adam," and the Gemara says even the Malach HaMavis gave Moshe Rabbeinu a gift. He wanted to buy in also, because all the Malachim understood that the tikkun, their tikkun, like we learned in Nefesh Chaim, even their tikkun is all hinging on us. Torah's going to come to us, and we're going to fix this world and their world, like we learned in Nefesh Chaim, right? So, so even the Malach HaMavis, he wants in, and he told Moshe Rabbeinu to decide. His gift was that Keteris stops a Magefa. That's right. And that's how when the Magefa broke out by Korach, so Moshe Rabbeinu told Aaron quickly, like Keteris, Hechel HaNegev, he learned that from the Malach HaMavis himself. When he...
Where's that written, Rabbi Bethel?
That's Gemara and Shabbos. This is Daf Peches. Right? Every... Shavuos says everything goes back to the source. Even the Yetzer Hara goes back to the source, and it's a renewal of the Bnei Bechori Yisrael. From our side of things, it's always true. But that's when we get reconnected to the idea of that we are Bnei Bechori Yisrael, right? And that and just like we get connected to it, the whole Bria becomes connected to it, and even the angels of this Umas Olam, they all throw in. They all want to buy into Klal Yisrael. Even the Malach HaMavis wants to buy in. That day, everything goes back to the source. Everyone realizes, for an instant, what the score really is. Even though that's the score really year round, but there's no cognizance of it. We're always being because of it, but the cognizance of it, the renewal of it for us, right? So that we were Makabel Torah, of course, we have Kibul HaTorah we've had, and that doesn't get new. What gets new is the Nesina Satar. Understand that it's from the Ribbon Shalom. That's what renews itself on Shavuos. That's the theme of the Bikurim. That's and that's our role of Bnei Bechori Yisrael. It's also part of the theme of Yom HaBikurim, Bnei Bechori. Right? All that gets renewed on Shavuos. Renewed from our perspective. That's what we have on Shavuos. We don't have year round. Right? The special connection to the source, and that's what, and it's supposed to spill over the whole year. Right, the newness that we should feel always chidush and chiyus from Torah, from avodas Hashem, should never get old. Should never, should always feel that it's always perpetually connected to the source, and that's why it's a living religion that will never die, because it's connected to the source. That's why it's a living religion, and it's a living Torah that will never die, never get extinguished, never be forgotten. Right, that's what gets renewed on Shavuos, and it's also our status as the ones that Rebbe gave the Torah to, our status of Bnei Bechor Yisrael, even though it's true year-round, or Rebbe already designed the world that way, but that we are connected to that reality, and we remember who we are. We remember what our mission is. Right, it's a ischachus of our role of the Jewish people, which includes a ischachus of anti-Semitism. Right? Chazal said, it also, the two go together. That's what Gemara says. Same place. It's called Har Sinai. Shisham Yarda Sina La'akum. From that point onwards, there's hatred in the world. Rosham hates the Goyim hate Klal Yisrael. Misha is Har Chorev Miriam Yarda Chorban La'akum. It's there. Chorev brings Chorban onto the Goyim. It's a renewal of our role of the chosen people that everyone is jealous of and hates. Right? It all renews and gets fresh. For us from. Because during the year round we forget it. This is what we get from Shavuos, and this is how Shavuos energizes the whole year. Okay.
Thank you.
Rebecca,